Well, hello, everyone. I am Ellen Ramsey from the University of Virginia. At the University of Virginia Library in Charlottesville, where I am speaking to you from today, we acknowledge that the land where we learn and work is the ancestral homeland and traditional territory of the Monacan Indian Nation. We pay respect to their elders and knowledge keepers, past and present. We acknowledge and pay respect to the enslaved Africans, enslaved laborers, and free Black laborers who built UVA, as well as their descendants. Today, we acknowledge the land, we acknowledge labor, traditions, and knowledge, and we acknowledge lives. Today's presentation is the final grant report of the Advancing Hyku project, which ran from October 2019 to March 2022 and was funded by Arcadia, a charitable fund of Lisbet, Rausing, and Peter Baldwin. It only took me 2.5 years to learn how to say that correctly. Presenting with me today are Ilkay Holt from British Library, and helping with the Q&A session will be Elisa Barrett from Ubiquity Press. Just want to remind you what the project was and was not. You've seen this slide before if you've been to any of our presentations in the last couple of years. As I mentioned, who we were funded by and the time period. The goals of the project were to support the growth of open access through institutional repositories by introducing significant structural improvements and new features to the Samvera community's Hyku institutional repository platform. We did not build a new institutional repository solution. We tried really hard not to redirect resources from the Hyrax codebase and community, and we definitely don't claim that institutional repository population and its use is a singular path to the future of open and sustainable scholarly communication. You will see throughout the presentation some icons, and the rest of the presentation is mostly based on a document that we have shared with the community, and I know that the Hyku dev group has seen it and the Hyku interest group has seen it, and we are happy to share it more broadly, called We Advanced Hyku, and you can too. This is not a complete list of the things that the project did, but this is sort of a top 10 of the things that are sort of easiest to explain, coolest to look at, and truly in the community code and available. So as I said, the icons, that lovely little ruby gem means just what you might think it does, which is that the particular feature is available as either a part of the Hyku add-ons package or installable as a gem onto a current version of Hyku. And there are lots of folks with better technical chops than I have who can help you with that. So just ask in the Slack or in one of the interest groups. The little Hyku icons with the numbers are obviously, hopefully obviously, the numbers of the versions in which a particular feature runs and or which you would want to add a gem to. Again, I'm going to apologize for the technical things I get wrong all at once, and then I won't apologize again. A couple things we did not finish on the grant, and I want to express, first of all, appreciation to folks for already picking up some of this collaborative work. We've talked a couple of times with the Hyku for Consortia team and our AP Trust partners about preservation packages, and we're hoping that that work will continue in their project. Two other things that I really personally wish we had gotten to, but you know, we didn't, and they're open for adoption, are more reporting kinds of tools. So, you know, things like a regular email of, hey, depositor, or hey, author, you got this much activity on your work in the repository this month. We'd like to see that. And related to that are metrics per article and work that are integrated with other metrics tools like Altmetric and Google Scholar. I know that there's some work on that I'm excited to see later in the Connect program. But we do have Orchid, and we'll talk about that. So what do we do? Crosstalk Search. And it does, this is actually a screen capture from the shared research repository at British Library, but you can see that there's a single way to search across tenants, which are the individual repositories within this multi-tenant instance, you can search across British Museum, British Library, Kew Gardens, etc., with a single search box. And this is now part of Hyku 3. Auto expiration of embargoes and leases. This was also talked about a little bit in the Hyrex presentation earlier. Works better now. Previously, you could expire them, but they didn't actually turn anything off. And so that's part of Hyku 3 as well. DOI minting is a piece that you can now turn on or off. And that was really important to some of the partners who were responding to our community survey. We'll get into the discussions about when and how one should mint a DOI for what purpose, because that is still institution specific in a lot of ways, but there's at least the option to turn it on or off. And it does work with DataCite in this instance. This is a cool one. So you can autofill metadata fields with a DOI in a record, and you'll see the capture there. So I'm going to show you, this is the input form, put in the DOI, and then, oops, sorry, I'm ahead of myself. So that's for a single record. And then this is the one I have 2 slides on. The auto population of records with bulk DOIs. So you can put in a bunch of DOIs, and we're using the third-party unpaywall tool to resolve those and then put them into essentially a vetting list, which an administrator of the repository can then say, yep, 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 I want that one, I want that one. So that's how that works. And that's a gem that you can put into any version of Hyku later than 2, if I understand that correctly. Okay. Bulk import and auto population of records from ORCID and from DOIs. There's a lot of interest in this, and it's currently a Hyrex gem. We have a little bit of work on this. We've looked at it. There's a workflow that we've worked on as part of our Advancing Hyku project, but there's more that needs to be done. I was really excited to see the call for the bulk recs working group. Maybe this will go into Hyku 4. We'll see. This is a pretty easy one. This is research information systems citation export, so standard, Mendeley, Zotero, etc. This is a gem that you can add to Hyku 3. Okay, ORCID, this is a big one. This is currently in Samvera Labs, so you can connect ORCID with a profile, an author's profile within the cross-tenant repository instance. It's a gem right now. I believe, and Rob Kaufman can verify this, or we can talk about it later, that it's slated to maybe go into Hyku 4. So that's a question I'll leave open for folks who know better than I do. This is also a pretty cool one. This function allows you to use the hypothesis third-party tool to comment on PDF that is hosted in the repository. We did actually use this for editing the latest version of our reporting for the project. So we have run it, and it does work as long as you have hypothesis enabled. I'm going to turn it over to Ilkay Holt at this point, and she's going to talk about the next slide.
Thank you, Ellen. Hopefully you hear me fine.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Hi, everyone. Yeah, Ellen actually summarized so far the list of main features delivered as part of Advancing Hyku project. So to be able to present you those main features and actually more of them in a most practical way, Ellen created an adoption part chart on a Google Doc, which I already shared the link in the chat and also in the Slack. Hopefully you are actually being able to see that table or chart. So I will try to explain this complex thing at one go. Let's say So that adoption chart or part will give you 4 options in total to implement those features in your own repository. And to give you an overview of those options, for instance, the option 1, which is highlighted as green and in the circle, and the green circle that you see, that displays what comes with installing Hyku 2 and later and higher versions of the software. So you can also see a few of the features spread around in the green circle. If you see a feature listed on that chart with an option 2, that means those features can be adopted as an individual plugin. With Alan's, again, great interpretation, you can call this option as an a la carte menu. You can pick and choose, different plugins from that blue area. If you see the option 3 with the yellow circle and also the yellow highlights on the adoption chart, that is an inclusive circle in the slide. These are Advancing Hyku add-ons, whichever version of the Hyku that we use. They come as a fixed menu. If that's the right way of putting them, actually, they come as a package of gem and plugins. So these are toggled features which you can turn on and off, and but they come together as a bundle. That's I'm trying to actually just underline. As it says in this slide, if you want all of them at once, there is an option 4. You can always work with one of our service providers in the Samvera community to get these things done. I will just move on to this next slide. So one of the things that we wanted to highlight alongside the great work of feature development in this project is the community engagement. Since the beginning, we highly valued community needs and input for the project and have been collaborating with the other members of the community. And as part of those efforts, we initiated a shared project roadmap, which later became a community roadmap to identify what is being developed and their status across Hyku projects. And this is just a snapshot of the Hyku roadmap. You can see 4 or 5 different projects on the board, as well as Advancing Hyku at the moment. And we are just happy to see that community owned it and will remain up to date even after Advancing Hyku ends. And I just want to point out one last thing about this board. If you look at the deferred column, that displays the features which we couldn't tackle in the time frame of the Advancing Hyku project, as Ellen already mentioned. In the next slide, again, Ellen actually already touched upon that. I just wanted to remind ourselves with that deferred column, these features are for the community to decide whether there is still need for them or for another project to pick them up. As mentioned again by Ellen, preservation features are already with our Hyku consortium colleagues as a good example of constructive communication between Hyku community projects. Shortly after this talk, we will hear updates from Hyku interest group. So I think this slide is also a good shout out to that presentation in the context of what's next for the community. So for the next slide, and I will just finish here with a list of links to the project related documentation. At this point, we're just looking forward to hearing your thoughts and any possible questions, Ellen and I, and possibly Elisa in the audience or in the Slack with me. So we can actually pick up your difficult questions if there's any. Thank you.